Hi everyone. So in previous videos I've spoken about this crisis of meaning affecting our culture, that many people today are failing to find meaning in their lives. Jesus offers a vision of fullness of life. He holds this out to us, and yet many aspects of contemporary life obscure that vision. We need to undergo a conversion of the imagination, a transformation of the way that we see reality in order to recover that meaning for our lives. And it seems to me that this is precisely what Jesus was trying to prompt in people during his ministry. More than just teaching information about the reign of God, he invites people to come and see, as he says at the beginning of the Gospel of John. His primary tool for inviting people to come and see was the parable, and that's what I want to explore in this video today. So, Jesus' parables often include or incorporate three distinct moves that lead to a transformation in the way that we see things. So, first, the parable draws us in. Jesus' parables are typically about things from the everyday life of his first century Judean audience. So, things like casting nets in the sea, laboring in a vineyard, baking bread, or in the case of the parable of the Good Samaritan, for example, it's describing this road, this journey between people's hometowns and Jerusalem, where they would have gone to worship in the temple. So what this does, starting with the familiar, it activates our imagination. It brings to mind familiar images corresponding to what Jesus describes. And we like this. We like what's familiar. We're most interested in stories that concern ourselves somehow. So the parables draw us in this way. They get our minds going. But Jesus' parables always include a twist, an element of the unexpected. So this is the second move, flipping our expectations and way of seeing things on their head. In the parable of the Good Samaritan, it's not the priest or the Levite who play the hero and help the man in distress, as Jesus' audience would have expected. Rather, it's a Samaritan. It's a member of a group that Jews of Jesus' time detested. Just to give you an idea, if you can think about maybe the political figure who most gets under your skin, and then imagine them in the role of the Samaritan in this story, then you might have something of a sense of how Jews would have responded to the story of Jesus. Confused, disturbed, disoriented. That's what the parables do to us when we're really hearing them as Jesus told them. As the theologian Walter Kahn said about these parables, that having robbed us of the certainties of our given world, the parables would leave us naked and totally vulnerable before the divine mystery that is God. So the parables in the second move, they disorient us. They upend our way of seeing things. And then Jesus makes his final move in telling these stories. Having thrown our accustomed ways of seeing things into disarray, he confronts us with a decision. So at the end of this parable of the Good Samaritan, he asks his audience, which of these three do you think was neighbor to the victim? Of course, this lawyer responds, the one who showed mercy, the Good Samaritan. And Jesus challenges him, go and do likewise. So the choice that Jesus presents, the lawyer in the story, the choice that Jesus presents to us in the parables is never an easy one. His parables reveal that, on the one hand, our old ways of seeing things were too narrow. They're marked by many blind spots. But the alternative that Jesus presents to us doesn't make any sense to us either. We hear these stories and we think, how is this fair? I mean, how can God be like this? How could God possibly expect me to do what Jesus is suggesting in this story? So, in this way, Jesus' parables, they lead us imaginatively from the familiar through the shocking to a choice about how to make sense of the reality that Jesus is presenting to us. Jesus' intention in these stories is not merely to teach us a nice moral. It's not merely giving us information about the reign of God. He intended to expose the inadequacy of our accustomed way of seeing things. And beyond that, to let us catch a glimpse of a fuller reality, perhaps even to experience the reign of God in some fleeting way. The parables invite us to imagine and to live in a new and better way. So, taking Jesus' parables seriously often leads us to an uncomfortable place. We don't like having our views change. We don't like to change our minds. However, we live in a time when we have little choice. Many people are struggling to make sense of life. Jesus' vision of life might be hard to wrap our minds around, but as Peter said to Jesus, "To whom else shall we go? You have the words of eternal life." So I believe this kind of approach is the kind of approach that we need today to help people to discover meaning for their lives in Christianity. I've adapted Jesus' approach in these parables to our own contemporary context, to my teaching, and I've found great success in this. So I invite you to check out how I've done this in my book. You can check it out on the website that's linked in the description below, and I invite you to try it out for yourself. So thank you for watching this video, and God bless.